I think for me the Cybercrime Act is good because one, it prevents people, illegal people such as hackers, crackers who can try to who steal critical information from other people who are computer illiterate, and that causes them critical damage to their internal hardware.
First, we look into the recently passed Cybercrimes Act bill, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Generative AI can be used, like, say you have been tasked with writing an essay on the brain, and you don't know where to start. You could go to any AI platform and ask it to give you the body or the structure of how you're supposed to write it with the very few ideas, so that you can get the concept of the essay and you can do it on your own.
Generative AI is here with us. What is the way forward? Kenya opts out of the IMF funding program after foregoing the 9th review. Kenya has set to plant 15 billion trees by 2032. Is this enough to restore the tree count in Kenya? Live from Central TV Newsroom, I am Elsie Zawadi, and we are welcoming our viewers in Kenya and around the world. We are with you for the next 25 minutes. Thank you for joining us. This is the Pointer News. You can join the conversation on our social media handles, that is X at Central TV, using the hashtag #ThePointerNewsKE. The Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Amended Act of 2025 has sparked controversy across the country. A law that was supposed to shape the country's digital future, it has now come under fire, and it is sparking a sharp debate. Our correspondent Felive Sinyambo has more details on this news.
The recently amended Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act of 2025 has managed to divide legal minds, digital rights activists, and even ordinary Kenyans. The act introduces tougher punishments for cyberbullying, online harassment, deepfake production, and the spread of non-consensual intimate images. But opponents say some of the provisions, especially those touching on false information and disturbing content, remain vague and could be used to target journalists, bloggers, and social media users who criticize those in power.
I think for me the Cybercrime Act is good because one, it prevents people, illegal people such as hackers, crackers who steal critical information from other people who are computer illiterate, and that causes them critical damage to their internal hardware. And also it helps regulate the amount of illegal activities that are being done inside the computer.
Government officials, however, say the law has been misunderstood and is designed to create a safer digital space for all. Even so, legal experts warn that without clear guidelines and strong oversight, the law could be misused in exactly the ways activists fear.
First of all, in terms of the positive aspect of this is that crime will be able to be resolved faster, and the investigations would take as long as normal time frames used to take. This will ease and speeden up the process of judgment, and the right people will be held accountable. The negative aspect in this is whereby we as a service provider, we guarantee security for our clients, but as soon as the government requires us to give out data on our clients, it becomes a question of who is taking care of our clients' data, who are we giving this information to, and what are they going to use this information to.
For now, the country waits to see how the law will be applied and whether it will protect or police the public.
And our correspondent Felive Sinyambo now joins us live. Felive, this law seems to have two opposing sides, protection and possible overreach. What are the experts saying about the real-world impact, and what should we expect?
Elsie,
agree on one thing. This law is powerful. If used well, it can protect millions. If used poorly, it can silence them. Many experts say the real challenge will be ensuring police and regulators apply it fairly and with transparency.
And speaking of transparency, some groups say the definitions of false information or distressing content are still too broad, leaving room for abuse. Is that fear justified?
Exactly the concern. Activists say that without clear public guidelines and court oversight, these sections could be used to target critics or opposition voices. They want Parliament to develop regulations that give very specific interpretations.
So we're looking at a law that could either be a shield or a sword, depending on how it's used. What has been recommended as a way forward?
Three things, Elsie. There should be a clear enforcement on guidelines that should be published publicly. The judiciary must oversee these enforcements to prevent misuse. And finally, the government should carry out public digital education so that Kenyans know their rights and responsibilities online.
Thank you for joining us, Feliv.
Thank you for having me. Back to you in studio.
We are now joined by an expert on matters law. Thank you for joining us. What additions have been made to the recently amended Cybercrimes Act? Have there been any deductions?
There has been the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime law, which has by and large governed how people are using or misusing or tend to misuse the space of the internet space. Majorly, the act provided the definition and the scope of what is a computer, what is a misuse, what is a cyberspace, what is the crime per se, what are the penalties, and what is the extent to which one can be punished, and whether there is any other intervening authority that is set up to be able to oversee the implementation of that act. Therefore, largely, that has not been deleted. That is still there. What there has been, or what has been brought up, is that the provisions in that act have been beefed up. It has further expanded the definition of the crimes to be committed. It has further expanded the definition of the harassment. It has also provided for new offenses and the penalties for those offenses. It has also given government some mandates, extents to which the government can intervene where such breaches have been committed. So the enforceability, the applicability and utility of the Cybercrime Computer Misuse Act has been put into a better shape and better utility.
What are the pros and cons to this act?
And what are the penalties? So what this law has done, it is to define the scope of the offenses, like introducing the issue of harassment, introducing the issue of SIM swap, and how as a crime, and what are the penalties. Introducing the penalties if you commit an issue of cyber harassment, defining it to include this is communication that is offensive, grossly offensive, indecent, or that causes fear or suicide, then you are liable to pay a fine and or an imprisonment. So it has made additions in terms of definition. In terms of who is to oversee implementation, there is the National Computer and Cybercrime Coordination Committee. This is an addition to ensure that there is a proper utility of the law. The government has also been mandated with powers to unilaterally delete or block the sites that, one, they are advancing pornography, or they are contrary to other laws, like they are breaching the laws in relation to children, promoting pornography, they have terrorist inclination. The government can, without consultation, block those sites or websites. So you see, this law, therefore, as much as it touches on the freedom of expression and the freedom of media, it ensures that there are no characters that may take advantage of the freedom to utilize that space. The worry and the fear is, if the government chooses, without proper justification, to intrude into a space on the allegation that it is giving encouraging child pornography, or it is encouraging religious extremism, or it has terrorism inclinations, or such manner of things. You see, if the government can say, you see, the law says the government can intervene. What if the government, without proper justification that those reasons exist, blocks those evidence? You saw the fallback position for the government will be, but they were encouraging pornography. What there would be, and the expectation, one, the Constitution says that the Constitution is the supreme, and we are under the rule of law. Even the government should follow the law. That if they think that this website or this individual is participating in child pornography, then they take action based on evidence. You understand? That way, we all have a guarantee of what we call due process. So that in the event they take an action which is not backed by proper evidence, or that does not follow due process, then individuals have or can have interventions at court or through courts. That is the balance that must be created.
Moving on to other news. Artificial intelligence has been here with us for quite some time. ChatGPT, DALL-E, Sora, GitHub, and Suno are among the many types of generative artificial intelligence that exist. Now that AI is becoming part of our daily lives in more ways than one, we are going to look at the areas where it has infiltrated the most. Gift Isezarano with more news.
Artificial intelligence is no longer being held in anticipation. It is here with us in the current day. The various forms of generative AI have become part and parcel of our daily lives, in both small and big ways. One of the ways it has become prevalent is in the academic sector. It is reported that 9 out of 10 students in the university use ChatGPT to aid in assignments, reports, papers, and even research. While some institutions are welcoming of AI, some are not.
Generative AI can be used, like, say you have been tasked with writing an essay on the brain, and you don't know where to start. You could go to any AI platform and ask it to give you the body or the structure of how you're supposed to write it, with the very few ideas, so that you can get the concept of the essay and you can do it on your own.
I think the integration of AI and academia is a really good thing if it's handled correctly, because, in my honest opinion, one of the biggest problems that we get to experience as students is the fact that research can be so hard and so demanding, so much so that some books you can't find online. You have to visit libraries, some of them which are not accessible, some of them which have time limits, all of these problems. But AI solves that so very easily.
The benefits of using generative AI are, like, students are using AI to cheat in exams. They're using AI untruthfully by using them on their, like, term papers, on their assignments. So their work is not genuine, and they get marks that they are accorded marks that are not, like, up to par with where they are mentally. Yeah.
In the world of creativity, generative AI has been found to aid creators with various processes, including ideation, editing, writing, and drawing as well. It has been found to reduce the cost of production, has made the process of creating various forms of art, including digital paintings, music, films, and content creation videos, poems, books, among many others. However, critics warn that the process that are being avoided while using the various forms of generative AI led to erasure of human originality. Generative AI has also managed to get into the world of tech through apps like GitHub. Programmers can write and debug computer code.
Generative AI, which was once seen as the future, is now here, and it is shaping academic life, creating endeavors, the world of tech, and other corporate workforces. It is up to us to know how to harness the power of generative AI and become its master, not the other way around. Gifty Cesarano, The Pointer News.
We are now joined live by an expert dealing in artificial intelligence. Thank you for joining us. What would you say is the most affected area out of the areas that we have covered?
So my take would be coding. Coding is the most fundamentally affected because you're talking about talk of daily use and workflow integration. Um, so and then I would depending on how you're looking at it. So that is coding, and in terms of ethically and economically, I would say art. So my take is so now with coding, for example, when you talk about talk of code generation, so we have various AI programming software, like we have GitHub Copilot. So when programming and going ahead, so it has moved from writing syntax to actually just being reviewing. So like you see up to 30 to 50% improvement in terms of coding and code generation. That is now because of now AI being there. And where I would add art into the aspect terms of ethically and I've said ethically and economically is because yeah, like nowadays you see art is very subjective. And so when you're having like AI generating art, even doing like most of the ads with the generation and everything, yeah, there's ethical concern because they are trained on the existing art pieces and they've gotten so well that even the humans who generate the art aren't compensated. And even economical implications because now AI generated art is actually much cheaper and very, very accessible to everyone. So that would my take, given the different paradigms you'd look at.
Are there ethical concerns coming up with the rapid adoption of generative AI into everyday
Yes, it
life?
does. We can talk about integrity and competence. I think that would be one way looking at it. Other way would look at, I think, would be in terms of ownership and crisis. And I think other one would be security and liability. I would categorize. So when you talk about integrity, you find there's huge dependency on the AI content, on AI generated content. So eventually, and I think this is highly seen in academia, that as much as it helps students and other graduates, pass through their classes and everything. But then, avoiding the struggle itself, it leads now to you having individuals who are half-baked, because yeah, instead of reasoning from the ground up first principles, even understanding why AI gave those suggestions, so it throws people into this frenzy of just comfort, and I think that's when you lose that aspect in terms of competence and even integrity wise. There's just that huge dependence. In terms of ownership, I think this is highly seen because now when you read now this AI content, um yeah, it just brings issues. Say like for example, like AI generated music. Yeah, so of course I think that goes back to what I just said. So like there isn't any compensation from those individuals who actually labored in terms of contributing to this. And then lastly, I think it will be in terms of security. That's now programming, because you find yeah, with AI generated content code, and if individuals fail to um, review it very well, it tends to use old packages. It tends to have some subtle bugs, of which if deployed in production, you're going to have faulty systems that eventually lead to big problems. I think we have seen that in the past year. We have seen different companies, for example, like CrowdStrike. When we talk about Microsoft Downage, you talk about Cloudflare. And so I think those are the things that you are coming to see more and more often. Yeah.
What do you predict to be the future of generative AI, and will human beings find a way to harness it?
That's a really good question. I think one thing that's very, very obvious, I think there's the movement from chatbots to AI agents. And we'd say AI agents are currently under development. And what that would mean is moving from a stage of talking about consultants to actually, yeah, AI that you just tell, you give them, or rather give them tasks, they go ahead, execute them, and your work is just about to oversee. And so that's just the entire, like, now moving towards agentic. And so, like, how humans stay in the loop of this and harness it is now by and even those who, there's the fear that AI will replace humans, but that's not necessarily true. I think what we are seeing it in the industry is that individuals who learned how to use AI will actually be much better. So that would involve moving from prompt engineering to workflow orchestration. So orchestration would be like managing different AI agents, knowing how to give them tasks, knowing to manage and getting things done in a given sequence, and how they bring up all together to actually ensure a given task is complete. So yeah, I think there's definitely going to be a lot of value addition, and it's both good. Good in the sense that there's going to be more value to be added, more productivity, increment. But then downside is if you do not end up catching up, I think you'll be left behind. And so yeah, I think that's my take.
After the commercial break, we shall talk about Kenya and the IMF. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Kenya has opted out of its IMF-supported economic program after failing to complete the 9th review, an outcome that has riled up financial markets and raised brand new questions about the country's fiscal stability. Marion Dichu with more on this news.
Kenya has abandoned its 4-year agreement with the IMF, a program that served the purpose of anchoring the country's financial well-being and restoring investor confidence. With failing to achieve revenue targets, a fiscal deficit on the rise, and political pressures mounting over new taxes, Kenya did not meet the requirements for the final review. As a result, the country has to forego nearly $800 billion in pending IMF disbursement money that the Treasury would have used to stabilize its budget and foreign exchange reserves. Financial markets reacted quickly and negatively. This is because the Kenyan shilling weakened against major currencies, government bond yield rose, and investor confidence tanked, signifying that fiscal reforms are delaying. Treasury is already negotiating on a new IMF arrangement with hopes of regaining the country's reputations lost due to failed review. Experts, however, warn that the new arrangement may come with tougher conditions to meet, considering that Kenya is struggling to contain debt and to balance the national budget. As Kenya resets its settlement with the IMF, the stakes are high. The government must now convince both the fund and the markets that it can stay on a credible path of fiscal reform without weighing down citizens already stretched by the cost of living. Marion Dichu reporting for the Pointer News.
We are now joined by our expert live. Thank you for joining us and kindly introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me. My name is Peter Gaido. I'm a public finance specialist. So I manage public finances, more so into assurance services. It's also great to have you here to discuss matters of fiscal management, more so in light of the public sector. Thank you.
What does abandoning the ninth review signal about Kenya's fiscal position?
The ninth review was meant to bring in $800 million. And when this was abandoned, it meant that Kenya is now under fiscal pressure. And that means the investors, they would fear that something would happen in regards to servicing of the loans and all that. So one, it spelled pressure. Number two, it means that our economy will grow in a slower pace. And number three, we expect volatility of our currency because of the less inflows that we have got out of that stalling.
Why did the financial markets respond so sharply to the stalled IMF program?
Markets love certainty. Market thrive with certainty. Now, IMF is viewed as a barometer of stability in an economy. So when this stalled, then the confidence of investors went down. That means even the borrowings will go higher because the reaction of the market will be they will be financing higher risks. So that tells you the market reacted sharply because the indicator of stability was affected by IMF stalling the talks. So that also would mean our shilling would also suffer stress because of that.
What financing options does Kenya realistically have to close the gap left by the missing $800 million?
Say Kenya still has options, and one of them would include what we call bilateral loans or multilateral agreements, whereby even commercial loans, whereby now government can borrow from multilateral organizations or borrow from the banks that do offer. Number two, we can have also domestic borrowing. This is by way of treasury bills and bonds, where government would resort to borrowing from the the local market. However, that will spell higher interest rates, which might also stifle growth by the private sector. And number three, we can also have another fresh agreement with other lending institutions or donors, whereby we can now be able to finance the deficit.
What risks and opportunities does this moment present for Kenya's?
Though we are not in a so good position, we do have some opportunities and risks. In regard to risks, we do expect high borrowing costs where interest might be high. Number two, we can have sustained debt pressure. And last but not least, we also expect volatility in our shilling, or rather our currency, in regard to us missing that facility. For the opportunities, Kenya has a chance to reset itself, both in terms of its fiscal management, on revenue spending, revenue and spending. And number two, we can also look for other funding sources. This is a good way to diversify. And last but not least, to be more transparent and communicate better to the populace to ensure that our fiscal policies and management is well known. So, and to wrap it up, I would say Kenya also stands in a good position to start off again and start looking inward for solutions that we can get, whether it's through privatization of what we call state-owned enterprises and any other sources of funding that would be less expensive.
Kenya's ambitious push to greening its landscape has seen hundreds of millions of trees planted in just a few years. From government-led campaigns to community private sector initiatives, the country is racing towards a target of 15 billion trees planted by 2032. But beyond the impressive figures lies a critical question. Are these surviving and are they restoring ecosystems as intended? Catherine Bithe with more.
Kenya's tree planting drive has gathered unprecedented momentum. Since the launch of the National Tree Growing and Restoration Campaign, the government says over 825 million trees have been planted nationwide. The initiative aims to restore degraded land, improve biodiversity, and raise Kenya's tree cover from about 12% to 30% by 2023. Government agencies, counties, schools, faith institutions, and private partners have all played a role. One of the biggest contributors is One Acre Funds to Pande program, which has facilitated the planting of 97 million trees, distributing seedlings to over 1.4 million farmers and 37,000 institutions across the country. But on the ground, Kenyan says planting a tree is only the first step. Survival rates remain one of the biggest concerns.
It is not realistic. There's no way you can plant 15 billion trees. Where and how? Look at our city. We are cutting down trees every day to build roads, infrastructure, hospitals, schools. So it is something that doesn't make sense. At least they could have said 1 million trees. That makes sense. 15 billion trees, where will they fit in? Sometimes you need to come up with realistic goals and ideas that make sense.
Environmental experts warn that millions of seedlings may not reach maturity due to drought, poor species selection, grazing, and lack of maintenance. To address accountability, the government introduced digital tracking tools like Jaza Mti app designed to monitor where trees are planted and whether they survive. Still, conversation urged that numbers alone do not equal restoration.
We are now joined live by an expert matters environment. Thank you for joining us. With over 825 million trees reportedly planted, what is the estimated national survival rate so far?
Okay, with the over 8 million planted trees, the survival rates will, the national survival rate will depend on how the trees were considered for planting because of factors such as the rainfall, the topography, the area, the zones that the trees were being planted, such as the upper zones are fairer than the lower zones. So when we talk about survival rates, it will be 100% dependent on the conditions that were prevailing. But on an estimate, the survival rate with the normal factors being considered, you expect a 60% survival rate of those trees that are already planted. So out of the 8 million, you can do your mathematics that 60% will survive going forward.
Are current monitoring systems sufficient to track tree growth beyond planting events? Tree growth.
The application that was put in place during the intention to plant and during the moment that the planting was actualized is able to track the survival rates of the trees. And there are various reasons that can be attributed to that. Number one is that tree management and afforestation in the country is an institutional approach. There is an institutional approach in terms of how trees and forest is managed in this country. So with the platform that was made and digitalization that was applied, or the platform for monitoring the growth and tracking down survival and how the tree will progressively grow to maturity, it's something that is achievable by the fact that Kenya Forest Service, being an institution that is mandated to manage forests and make sure that the afforestation programs, the government afforestation programs, and the issues to do with the tree cover in the country, given being a government strategy of making sure that we have sufficient forests and tree cover in the country is achieved. So,
how can countries balance fast tree planting targets with ecological suitability and biodiversity protection?
Trees, while knowing very well that with the mapping and the information that is required or a database of what the status is in their counties, they are able to tell areas that are suitable for commercial forest and the ones that are natural in forestation will be protected against infiltration of any non-indigenous trees. So with the suitability and use of skills and information that is available, we are able to have stability in terms of knowing the exact zones that exist and how they can be managed to make sure that biodiversity is not interfered with, while the commercial forest achievement is also within reach. So in a nutshell is to say that with the right data, with the right information, in terms of the classification of zones and the classifications of the trees and the type, are they exotic, are they indigenous trees, are they natural forest, are they artificial forest? With that, we can be able to tell which areas is suitable for what, and with that achieve the issues of commercialization, or making sure that forestry is a business, and at the same time making sure forestry is also part of efforts for conservation.
What lessons can Kenya learn to ensure the campaign delivers long-term environment impact, not just short-term numbers?
Lessons to be learned to make sure that the campaign is not a short-term but a long-term. First of all is to have what we call a multi-sectoral approach. Multi-sectoral approach is to bring together all the stakeholders and players in the forestry sector. A good example is the local community, or what we call the indigenous community, the government agency. We have the Kenya Forest Service, we have KWS or Kenya Wildlife Service, we have the county governments, we have the Ministry of Environment, we have the National Environment Agency, that is NEMA, and other stakeholders. With the right information and with the right lead agency, being the Kenya Forest Service, there are many lessons to be drawn and experiences shared across, because stakeholders being put together will make sure that it's not a short-term attempt, but it's going to be a long-term attempt, because it's a matter that is of national importance, and because all of us need forestry products, they are on demand every day. We also need to deal with issues to do with the climate change mitigations. We also have to deal with issues to do with the levels of rivers and lakes being affected by low forest covers. And because we are all beneficiaries of natural resource called water and forestry, with all stakeholders being brought together, and of course benchmarking with the nations and regions that have been able to manage their forests competitively, then it means it's going to be a lesson we can draw from other nations and other regions for the purposes of making sure that we attain sustainability of that project of afforestation and the project to improve the forest cover in the country.
And with that, you are well informed on matters happening around you and across the world. Thank you for being with us. My name is Elsie Zawadi, and this is the Pointer News.